Recruiter in 2021. Over the years, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes in 15 years, have you not?
Oh yeah, for sure. From faxing in resumes to, you know, texting and sending offer letters via everything's kind of gone mobile. So I recall those days of waiting on the fax machine to see those resumes. I do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was a physician recruiter in 2004. We were the fax machine was alive and well. In fact, I remember when I was first getting my training in 2004, my manager was showing me how to send out these mass faxes through this company that sent out mass faxes. So we were sending out these faxes on our available doctors to all these facilities throughout the country.
Yeah, I know. And now it's social media and everything else. So it's totally morphed and changed for sure.
Absolutely. It's a good thing though, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's always important to change and morph with the times. Otherwise, you can't keep up with talent, period. So.
Exactly. And I noticed you worked at quite a few other places, which is very interesting as well. You had a perspective also from Baylor Scott and White. You've been at UT Southwest in Dallas, also Children's Medical Center of Dallas, and even St. Jude's in Memphis. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's been amazing. I've worked with some really great leaders and people, and working on candidate experience, and kind of growing up into the social media era, and from MySpace to Facebook and all that fun stuff. So I mean, I was around when some of my leaders were saying Spacebook, like tell me about that Spacebook. So I've been around. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, there's still hiring. You know what? You just mentioned something I want to talk about. There's still hiring managers today that when it's tough with some of these positions, they're like, why don't we do some more career fairs and some more job fairs, and why don't we put an ad in the paper?
Recording in progress.
Why aren't we putting ads in classifieds? And sometimes I don't think the managers get the memo that things have changed quite a bit. We can't use those same old methods like we used to. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, for maybe some of my smaller markets where it's kind of a hometown feel, you might find that some of those grassroots efforts really maybe might be helpful. But I would say when you're in a larger market, when you're working even in the Tyler area, Tyler's really a city. It's not, just a town. And so we kind of have to do what everybody else does. I mean, we have to get on board and job fairs and walk-in events. I mean, they yield something, but it's not always what you want.
Yeah, I'll agree on that. And then Jonathan, you're going to send me that link, right? I don't see that link come across yet on the comments as they come in. I want to make sure that if you're just now signing in, please let us know where you're signing in from, what city or state or country. Let us know. Are you in the recruitment business? Are you just trying to learn more about recruiting? Perhaps are you someone who is looking to get a job and you want to know how to best interact with recruiters? We would love to hear any of that. Any of your questions and your comments, we want to see those. We want this to be an interactive discussion. So I have some very curious questions I want to ask you, Farrah, about your position and what's involved, all the experience you have, and in fact that your experience is relevant because you're doing it right now. Do you tend to take your desk and split it up into, let's say, your high volume positions where you get lots of applicants versus maybe the other part of your desk where you get perhaps very few qualified applicants, if any at all. Do you tend to split up your desk that way, or how do you split up your different recs that you get?
Well, I put kind of time on my calendar to do those really in-depth searches, because you do have to do, at least in a full desk recruitment process, you do have to do your own sourcing and kind of digging deep. And today's talent, I mean, we're all fighting for it, right? So it's really important to dig deep when you're out there searching for those people, and especially when there are those really tough skill sets to find. So I do kind of run through my high volume. I would say those are the ones that I hit in the morning,
Okay.
and kind of run through those, and then I may set some time aside in the morning as well for sourcing, and then some more in the afternoon. I tend to like to do things when I'm fresh, especially the more difficult positions. I try to spend more time in my fresher parts of the day when I have less meetings and that type of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I also want to ask you too, before I forget, what even got you into healthcare or in recruiting? Because typically, most people I know didn't go to school for recruiting. They somehow kind of fell into it in some kind of way. And everybody has an interesting and different story as to how they got into recruiting. So, first of all, how'd you get into it, and what made you want to stay? Because you've been in it for 15 years, which is amazing.
Yeah, recruiting is really a relationship, with your candidates and your hiring managers, and you either have a passion for that part of HR or you don't. I started in insurance, actually. I started with Progressive Insurance, and they were a very awesome company to work for. And one of the things that they did was they kind of benchmarked me for recruiting. They said, Farrah, we think you'd do well at that. And, honestly, I thought about it, and I went to school, and my degrees in community health promotion. And so later it kind of morphed into healthcare, right? But in the beginning, I went kind of the management route and jumped into HR, and, kind of never looked back type of thing, just sort of continued to sharpen my skill sets. So
Awesome.
yeah.
So, as you, what has made you want to stay in it?
Oh, it's just always changing. It's just one of those career paths that you never have the same day ever. I mean, and if you do, you're probably doing the wrong thing. Honestly, I mean, that's how I feel about it. Some days it's more hiring manager related. Other days you're going to be heavy on the candidate side. And if you're doing it right, you're going to spend time with all of those people the same. You're really going to try to dig deep, because today's talent, you can't be like a machine. You just can't. You have to build the relationship. You have to.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. And if I had my little clap machine, I would clap for you, because it is all about relationships. You're 100% correct. So let me ask you this. What's probably the most challenging part of your job? Is it getting the right candidates? Is it working with the needs of the hiring managers? Is it keeping up with the latest trends in recruitment? What's probably what you've seen over the years the most challenging?
Well, in healthcare, it's definitely, I think, finding the talent, because we're in such a competitive market, and we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we're switching back and forth. We're offering sign-on bonuses. We're doing everything we can to try to get the best talent. But also there's that side of managing your clients' expectations, right? Because I mean, and really trying to get them to understand the recruiting process, which we had a meeting about that today, really kind of getting them to understand what those job boards are like, and kind of how they all kind of come together. And when you've got an aged position, how you can't just leave it out there, and that type of thing. You really, you constantly have to be grooming everything you do in recruiting. And if you're not, you're just not doing it right,
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find that sometimes hiring managers in general, we're just going to speak in generalities, right?
Sure, of course.
Hiring managers in general, when they're so busy, they sometimes lose track of the amount of time that's passed since they perhaps received an applicant, and you're trying to get feedback, and they're super busy, don't have time. So have you seen there's been a little bit of of a difference there in perhaps what the candidate's thinking versus what the hiring manager is thinking in terms of time has passed. Have you noticed the difference there, or is it pretty much the same?
No, it's not the same. The hiring manager, their focus is their job, right? I mean, their focus is what they're here to do. But also they have to bring in the talent, and they also have to interview the talent, and so really I see that as my job, setting the timelines, reminding them, those gentle reminders like, hey, don't forget, lots of emails, lots of little ticklers on their calendars, like, don't forget, and having those conversation meetings where we just sort of talk about, kind of those meetings where you come together and you say, how were those interviews, and let's talk about it, and let's pull this together. We don't have much time. I mean, really, I think my nursing leaders understand that talent lasts about 2 or 3 days on the nursing side, and from the moment we reach them, we don't know how long they've been there, and honestly, it's probably 72 hours is what you have, if that.
Okay, now I want you to say that one more time so people in the back definitely heard you. How long is the shelf life of a lot of these nurse candidates you're getting?
72 hours at maximum. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, if I had that clap machine, I would clap again, because we've been talking about that for years now, that 1 to 3 business days is about all you have. And I know with us, when we perform a similar service for our clients in terms of the screening part, the sourcing and screening, that we make sure those candidates are screened usually within 1 day. The most we're going to go is 3 days, because we're with you on that. That makes so much sense. And it's good to hear it from other people, to know we're on the right track with this thing. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to talk a little bit about the time management more. So let's think about, first of all, time management in terms of allotting time with hiring managers to help some of our less experienced recruiters. How do you manage that? How do you manage time with your candidates? And then also, I want to also touch on hiring managers that maybe they're a little more vocal than others who aren't as vocal, but the ones who aren't as vocal, their needs are just as big, perhaps even more so than the ones who are as vocal. Now, before you answer that, I want to ask you and the folks in the audience a question.
Okay.
Okay, it's going to be a fun question here. You know what? This is not going to be super fun, but it is interesting. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, what form of communication do you prefer the most? Email, phone, call, text, or some other type of app messaging, like whether it's WhatsApp or Telegram or some other source? What's your favorite form of communication? If you just had to do one for, let's say, for the rest of the month, you can only use one form of communication. Which one would you go with if it was your choice?
The phone.
The phone. Wow. Are you serious? The phone?
Yeah.
Wow. Why'd you pick that one?
I love text, but you can't evaluate a relationship via text. You can't build a full relationship through text. You can't assess through text. You can't benchmark through text. Text is great, but it's not the best way to communicate.
Okay, I'll take it now. Okay, now let's. I want to ask you the same question in a slightly different format. And guys in the comments, I want you to answer the same question as well. So the first question was, which type of communication do you prefer? Okay. Now, also in the comments, and as well as you, Farrah, to answer this question, which form of communication do you think your candidates prefer? Just curious. Text. Okay, text. And I've seen that same thing on our side. We've seen the same exact thing as text. Okay. How about your hiring managers? What form of communication do you think that they prefer?
It's a split between text and email.
Wow.
Yeah.
It really shows how you, as the recruiter in the middle, you have to manage so many different forms of communication to be effective. It sounds like you have to be effective at phone, email, and text.
And we have chat too.
And we have chat.
We do.
That's true. Okay, those in the comments, how many of you guys are using some type of chat app of some sort? And if so, do you prefer that over regular text? I'm curious. And are you seeing that with your candidates? For those of you who are recruiters, I would be curious about that. I'm going to hit my refresh button to see if I have any new comments that have come in. We got a hello, of course, from Joanne. She says hello, as well as Melissa. And I see a familiar face who's watching today, which I'm happy about. Her name is Heidi. She is a very experienced recruiter, and she is with the National Healthcare Recruiter Association. So National Association of Healthcare Recruiters. Yes. Anyway, all right. So continuing on.
Yes.
I do have a fun. This is a fun question for you.
Okay, here we go.
All right. Would you rather? Okay, this is interesting. Okay, would you rather be able to plant factual and true information into people's thoughts, or be able to plant emotions into people's thoughts? If you had your choice, which one would you pick?
The actual true information, I would say.
Ah, okay. Then why'd you pick that one?
Well, I prefer kind of the black and white of things, and I do understand the gray, but I feed off of nonverbals a lot in my job, and emotions not as much. That's something that we have to really kind of weed out of what we do. I mean, you really have to set all that aside when you're recruiting, and you really just kind of have to focus on nonverbals and the facts and what.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Now this is interesting me now. So why do you feel like we should put the emotions to the side and only go for the factual? I want to delve in that a little bit more. I'm not questioning
Yeah.
whether you should feel that way or not. I'm just curious as to what was your process, what's your thought process as to why you think it's important to push that to the side and let's deal with the nonverbals and more of the black and white stuff.
Because I think sometimes when you get involved in emotion, it can take you different directions, and it can lead you down a path that really has nothing to do with a talent assessment or relationship building. And you get into biases, right? And we don't want to do that when we're assessing talent. We want to focus on what's in front of us, what are the skill sets, does this person feel like a good fit for my organization? It's really kind of like dating. I mean, you're really trying to figure out, is this person going to be right for this place, and how are they going to fit in, and what does it look like, and really taking all that other stuff away.
Okay.
And I have to coach managers to do that too.
You know what? I can definitely see that for sure.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that for sure. I worked over the years with some very interesting hiring managers in terms of the way they're, and they're all different. You may have 10 hiring managers to work with. They all have 10 different processes in how they assess candidates. Have you noticed that?
Yes, absolutely. I know. You almost need a spreadsheet for all the processes, right?
Exactly. Okay, so now this brings up another question. You said nonverbals. Okay, we can pick up a certain amount of nonverbals from a phone call. I get that. Less so for, let's say, text, unless we're putting a lot of emojis or something. So now that we're in the Zoom era and the virtual, meeting era, if you had to choose, and just we're gonna make an assumption that everybody has a great internet connection and it would be great, okay? Which we know that's not necessarily the case.
They know how to use virtual backgrounds, right?
What's that?
They know how to use virtual backgrounds, right?
Exactly. Okay, we're gonna assume everybody knows how to use it properly. Yeah. Okay, in that perfect world, and you could only choose one form of communication for the rest of 2021. Would it be a Zoom or Teams type scenario where all you can use is just the virtual things, or phone for the rest of the year? Which one would you choose?
Hands down, Zoom and Teams meetings. I mean, it's so much more efficient. We found that during the pandemic, and then, it's just kind of it's how we work. And actually, it's helped some of our folks just really push into it, which is great because it's effective. The time is much more. It just fits into everyone's schedule, I think, a lot more. When you're running around and mileage and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it takes a toll on your day, honestly. It
Yeah,
does.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of in the future,
Yeah.
do you think that the virtual meetings will basically take the place of the phone? Because on the virtual meetings, you do have the phone option, right? You can just
Yeah.
talk on the phone. Do you think we're going to get to the point where we're just not even using the phone anymore? We're just using the virtual meetings. And if someone needs to just be camera off, phone only, they can always use that option. What are you thinking?
I think so. I think so. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. We've already pretty much eliminated any of our. We used to do the call-ins by phone, and we pretty much eliminated that. So we don't do that anymore. And you're right. Some people have bad hair days, or they're in the car, or whatever they're doing,
Yeah.
and they can't be on video. So that's fine. They can still feel connected, and they can see you, or whatever the case is. So I think, and I think it's fine and good, and all of that. So yes.
Well, there's always that scenario too where, I'm moving around. And so I may want to cut the camera off, but I feel like when I leave it on, I can make whoever I'm talking to feel like they're my little baby, like I'm holding them. Cause it's like, it has that view where you're holding them and just looking up in the ceiling,
Right.
if you're using like an iPad or something. Anyway. Okay. So I have another fun question for you. And guys in the comments, I would love to hear your answer. And this is whether you're watching live or the replay. I want to hear your answers to this. Okay. Would you rather would you rather be caught outside in a severe hailstorm or a severe sandstorm?
Sandstorm.
Okay, why is that?
Because hail can knock you out. That can be quite dangerous.
That's true. That's very true.
I'd rather be sandblasted. You can do probably handle that a little bit better than hail. Hey, I used to adjust cars, so I mean, I saw those huge hail, like grapefruit things that would destroy people's cars. So no, I don't want to be out in the hail. No.
I think you might have me convinced on that one because I was thinking about hail, that if they're not too big, I would still be able to breathe easy and be able to see.
That's true.
Because in sand, after a while, you cannot have your eyes open. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty painful, and you can't hardly breathe.
That's true.
Man, it's a tough choice, isn't it?
It is tough. Do you want to be knocked out, or do you want to be able to see? I don't know.
Guys in the comments, let me know what you guys think. Okay, so let's go back to our topic here, which is recruiting.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about hiring managers, and this may help some other folks who are in a little bit of a tough spot because I know some recruiters are handling both your really hard to fill, low applicant type roles like nurses or physicians or things of that nature or therapists, but they're also having to handle other roles that have lots of applicants. Maybe it's a patient access representative or an EVS person or something like that. And they get lots of applicants. So how do you manage that part when you're dealing with hiring managers that are sometimes vocal, sometimes not so vocal?
Well, I mean, certainly I've had to manage both. Right now, I'm mostly on kind of the more tougher and I would say not high volume positions. But when I did do high volume, or even now, I find it's important to set those intake meetings with the managers and those follow-up meetings, even if you just get on the phone and say, hey, what's going on in your world? Even if they don't have positions open, getting a pulse on what's coming is always important, so that you can prepare yourself and sort of know what's happening. And then also they feel a little love from you. They feel like they still are connected, even though you don't have 1,000 openings for them, or maybe you don't have anything for them at this moment. So you just kind of have to keep a pulse, and calendar management is key, honestly.
Have you found some situation, Farrah, where you have a hiring manager who has a high level of turnover, and you happen to have someone who's interested in the position, but they're like, yeah, I don't have time for that right now because I don't have any openings right now. So I'm good for now. Don't send me anymore. Have you had that, or have they always been willing to accept when they have higher turnover? I'm just curious.
No, they don't always, they're not, you always have every kind of manager, right? So there will be managers that will not accept candidates when they don't have openings. Um, and so I am always sending talent forward and asking the question, do you have anything? If they don't have anything, I'm going to tell them, hey, I'm going to share that with your peer. I'm going to share them out to this person. So I share talent. I don't just hoard talent. So when when the going gets tough, if they don't want them, I'm going to move on to my next manager. And you know what? Sorry, but I really want them to act and to bring in people, talk to them. I've had to do a lot of convincing with managers that don't have openings. Like, hey, here's somebody in front of you. You might want to build a relationship with them because you do have hard to fill positions. It's worth a conversation.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. And it's always boggled my mind, Farrah. If someone has 100 people in their department and they have a 50% turnover ratio,
Yeah.
just because they don't have a position right now doesn't mean they shouldn't look at that person, because they're going to have a position open soon based on history.
Right. And how long does it take to have a conversation by phone or video? I mean, I even tell them, hey, it doesn't have to be formal. Just call them. I mean, we all called people in our car or, running errands. I mean, I talk to talent all the time. I don't have to just be in my office, right?
That's a great
I mean,
point.
yeah. So I always tell them it doesn't have to be this formal thing. Just have a conversation. Just see what you think. Just say hi. That's it, right?
Yes, yes, you're preaching to the choir on that one. I love it. Okay, and I like the fact that you gave them permission that, look, this doesn't have to be formal. I think that might help some hiring managers to go ahead and make that phone call. That's a
Yeah.
good point. Okay, let's talk about with candidates. I would love to let's get some content in here that will help from a candidate perspective, just so they understand, because I think a lot of times candidates, they don't really understand what a recruiter does. And so I would like us to kind of lay that out, that, the candidate part is an important part of your job. We just talked about other parts that are also important, working with hiring managers. So tell me about your candidate. What's the mix of your candidate interactions and candidate side of your job?
I spend a lot of time between text and phone um, and just trying to reach candidates to set up a time or just catch them. Like, I don't often set appointments for my interviews initially for my
Hmm.
I do little intro calls and I'll catch them. I'll say, hey, can we just hop on the phone and chat? I don't care to have these long drawn out interviews in the beginning. I want to find out who these people are, what their situation is. I really just want to have a friendly conversation, and just kind of assess, where are they? What are they doing? I don't need to be a robot. I and I really want them to feel like I'm their friend, and that I am not just a person that's assessing their skills, but that they can call me, they can ask questions, and I'm not going to just, feed
I
them
like
a
that.
canned response. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think your candidates would appreciate that as well. So that sounds really good. Give me your take on hiring events. Okay, so I this is one thing that I've been asking about, and it's interesting because I'm here all over the country.
Yeah.
Whenever there's situations where the candidates aren't forthcoming, or they're not getting the right kind of candidates, or they need quite a bit of candidates in a short period of time, sometimes the answer that we hear from hiring managers and sometimes even executives is, we need to do some career fairs. And so I would love to let's delve into what are some ways that we know it's a good opportunity for a career fair. And then maybe you can also tell me if you've seen career fairs and job fairs and things of that nature, those hiring events, do you feel like they are less effective than they used to be?
I do feel like they are less effective. We've done some virtual hiring events, as well as we do kind of a mix. So we have what we call walk-in Thursdays every week here, and we go sit in the lobby and we wait for people to come and, and walk in, and we'll connect with them. All they have to do is walk in the hospital, and they can meet with us face to face. So we do still have some of that. And then we also have, the virtual events where people can sign up and log in and have a conversation with us, and then we can connect them with a manager. Some are more effective than others, and I think some of that has to do with timing. Some of it has to do with advertising, and some of it really just has to do with the position and what we're looking for. Would I suggest that for someone specialized? No. But if we're looking for maybe a high volume type of role, those can be really good events for that type of thing. You can get a lot of people there. But for the more specialized roles, occasionally we'll get somebody that walks in, but you're not getting that ROI. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And what we found recently, Farrah, on our end is that when we compare the hiring events now with some of the video technology we've been using to reach our prospective candidates through, let's say, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Google, TikTok, Instagram, where they're on their phone, and we can just give them a quick application. We've actually recently been finding a lot of great success with that. And when we compare that with the virtual events, it takes so much more work and planning. It's been like amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the events do take a lot of time. I mean, it's a lot of planning, and then you have a lot of people that you have to have show up to make the events work. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, I just not noticed the time apparently flies with you. So, I mean, this has been, I can't believe 30 minutes has already passed. We're like 3 minutes over. So give us your last tip, if you want, tip of the day on any recruiters who are struggling on an order. What are some things what's one thing you would tell them to do that's next is going to help them out?
I think it's really important to go back to the person that's requesting you to look for this position. See if they have any pieces of information you've missed. Sometimes you can ask them different types of questions like, hey, do you have any organizations that I should tap into? Do you have any ideas of maybe similar job titles if you're hitting a kind of a dead end with your searches? How would this be called if you're working with something like a web developer or something where you're not as familiar. I mean, you have to know the lingo, right? And if you know the lingo, you'll make better searches. You'll find different ways, different professional organizations. Maybe you can tap into something like that. Sometimes you just gotta kind of dig around. I mean, it's like private investigating sometimes. That's how I look at it.
I love it. That's a great tip. So just ask more questions. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Almost kind of like the Columbo approach. I love Columbo. I used to watch this. I don't know if you ever watch this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just one more thing. This one more. I love it. Well, listen, Farrah, it's been great. Thank you for sharing your time with us and our audience. And those who are watching the replay and those who are watching live, let us know what you thought. What resonated with you from what we talked about? Let us know in the comments. And then how should people connect with you if they want to connect with you further? Should they just do a connection request on LinkedIn, see a DM, smoke signal, what?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find. It's Farrah Copp, and I'm probably the only Farrah Copp you'll find out there. I mean, I'm all over the place, so I can't hide. So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I'm all over the place. So, and I'm always happy to connect, and I'm happy to give advice too. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. You're helping your organization greatly in healthcare overall. So keep up the great work. Thank you, Farrah. Appreciate you being on today. Let's say bye to everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
And stay on for just 1 second while Jonathan gives us the clearance when he ends the stream. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and watch us on the next time we're on Live with Leah.